Hello, good evening, welcome. This is Hot Edition. We're live from news about Desawe Kanda, also live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W93.5 in Wa and beyond this evening here on Hot Edition. Accra Circuit Court sentences self-styled prophetess Patricia Asiedua, popularly known as Nana Agrada, to 15 years in jail for charlatanic advertisement and defrauding by false pretenses. We'll get details of that shortly for you. Minority in Parliament accuses the Electoral Commission of bowing to political pressure in its decision to rerun elections in the Ablekuma North constituency. Stay with us. We've got details for you and reactions as well. Tertiary Education Workers Union Ghana declares indefinite strike over union's representation dispute with Breakaway Group. Also, President John Mahama swears in 7 new justices of the Supreme Court, urging them to help restore trust and hope in the judiciary. All these plus the latest in business and sports over the next 1 hour here on Hot Edition. I am Alfred Ocansey. Let's get into a summary of the stories now.
In a summary tonight, President John Mahama has urged newly appointed justices of the Supreme Court to rise above procedural formalities and dedicate themselves to delivering real justice for Ghanaians. Speaking at the swearing-in ceremony of 7 new Supreme Court judges at the Jubilee House on Thursday, July 3, the president reminded the judges that their elevation to the highest court comes with both legal and moral responsibilities that transcend technical interpretations of the law. The Tertiary Education Workers Union of Ghana has declared an indefinite strike effective today, following the expiry of a 7-day ultimatum issued to relevant authorities on June 24. The strike responds to what Table Ghana describes as egregious and unjustifiable recognition of the minority union. The High Court in Accra has scheduled July 18 as the date for the trial of Kwabena Edubuahene, former Director General of the National Signals Bureau, along with 3 co-defendants in connection with the alleged misappropriation of 49.1 million Ghana cedis designated for a cybersecurity defense software project. The court's decision comes after it dismissed a request from the defendants for access to national security accounts dating back to 1992. Finally, Patricia Asiedua Isiama, popularly known as Nana Agrada, a former traditional priestess turned evangelist, has been sentenced to 15 years imprisonment by the Circuit Court in Accra. The sentence follows her conviction for charlatanic advertisement and obtaining money by false pretenses. Nana Agrada was found guilty of deceiving victims during a televised broadcast in 2022, where she falsely claimed to have spiritual powers capable of doubling money. We've got these and a lot more on our website, 3news.com. Do make time to go through them. Over to you, Alfred.
Indeed, and let's get into the stories. You're just joining us here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're also on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. Now, a former traditional priestess turned evangelist Patricia Asiedua Isiama, popularly known as Nana Agrada, has today been sentenced to 15 years imprisonment with hard labor by an Accra Circuit Court following her conviction on multiple charges of charlatanic advertisement and defrauding by false pretenses. The conviction relates to a widely circulated 2022 televised broadcast on her Today TV channel, during which she claimed to possess spiritual powers to, quote, double money for anyone who brought cash offering to her church, the Heavenway Champion International Ministry located at Wager here in Accra. At least 6 individuals formally lodged complaints, although prosecutors believe that over 1,000 people were defrauded during the single church event. The victims traveled from across the country, lured by the televised promises of miraculous financial gains, which never materialized. Now, Joseph Akable, who was in court together with Lord Edwasari, observed the happenings in court earlier today to give us an update on what's happening in there. But if you go on our Facebook page at 3FM927, you see the videos of what we're putting out there of exactly what happened in court earlier today. And just to give you a feel of it, if you go on our Facebook page right now at 3FM927, you see Nana Grada clad in an all-white apparel, walking out, also accompanied by security personnel, the Ghana Police Service, who then ushered her into a waiting Ghana Police Service vehicle. But Lord, you were there. You were in court earlier today. How was the mood and the atmosphere like in court when she was slapped with this 15 years jail term?
Right, Alfred. So even before Agrada was sentenced, you'd recall that there was a brief break where the judge ordered for a pregnancy test to be given or had for her, because then she had been convicted of the 3 counts of charges. The first one being the charlatanic advertisement, the counts 2 and 3 being the defrauding by false pretense. So once she was convicted, there was a directive she goes to do the pregnancy test.
Why the reasoning for the pregnancy test, by the way?
So with the judicial regulations, whenever a female gets convicted, before she's sentenced, they do a pregnancy test. And then if you test negative, then you'll be taken to the prison cells. Otherwise, there'll be special arrangements be made, because then you become a nursing mother soon, so that provision is made for you.
I see. It's not as though some had also alluded to the fact that Agrada indicated she was pregnant, and reason why they had to do the pregnancy test to authenticate whether she was indeed pregnant or not. It's not what happened.
Normal, just formal procedure. They do that with every female who is convicted before sentencing. Now, while the presiding judge in the matter, Evelyn Asama, was writing the sentence, Alfred, the courtroom was so quiet, and you could feel the uneasiness of her husband and then Agrada herself. When she came to court, she had her weave on or wig, yes, she had it on, but once she was convicted, she took it off. And
so if you go on our Facebook page, this is the video, right?
See her,
with just hair, the cornrow.
Exactly.
Without
at this point, the weave on was off, so you could tell that she was very disturbed, knowing the fate that was going to befall her. The whole time that the prosecution were making the case against her, she vehemently opposed by way of her facial expression. Now, her lawyers, in their closing remarks, prayed the court to give her a non-custodial sentence. Now, the argument was that Agrada has a 24-year-old daughter who is studying law at the university, and then a 3-year-old whose lives will be disrupted, essentially, if Agrada is sentenced, given a custodial sentence. Another reason why they were praying for a non-custodial sentence, Alfred, was that they indicated that Agrada, we all know, is a leader of a church, Heaven Way Champions International Ministry. They indicated that as a leader of the church, she has several church members who look up to her. They depend on her for their livelihood. And so if she's put away, their whole lives will be messed up. But the prosecution opposed that. In their closing remarks, they indicated that, look, Agrada was similarly convicted and sentenced in 2021, but because it was on the charlatanic advertisement, she was made to pay a fine of 10,000 cedis.
Right.
And exactly a year after, there was this case, same offenses or charges proffered against her. So the prosecution led by Emmanuel Haliga, he was the lead prosecutor, he indicated that it's because the punishments against Agrada were not deterrent or punitive enough. She walked right back to continue from where she left off. And so in her ruling, the presiding judge indicated that she had observed that one, Agrada is not a first-time offender, and 2, she skillfully, those are her words, skillfully executed these offenses and showed no remorse.
Right.
And so considering all these, she sentenced Agrada for the first offense, the 25 penalty units, which is equivalent to 300 cedis, and then the count 2 and 3, which was the defrauding by false pretense. She got 15 years in hard labor, for each of the counts. So she gets 30 years, but because it's supposed to run concurrently, Agrada will do 15 years.
I see.
Agrada herself she seemed very disturbed, quiet during the whole time. Same with her husband. He went in with a bottle of water. By the time the case was done, the bottle was finished. You could tell he was not a happy man at all.
And you know, so we had earlier advertised that we're going to speak to the Ghana Independent Brokers Association, GIBA, and here's the reason why. They have been consistently raising concerns about the televised content of, you know, persons within the circles of Agrada on this same Today TV channel.
Indeed.
And then also others who have been promising on live television they're going to double money, because that was one of the offenses that she promised. In fact, she claimed to possess the spiritual powers to double money for anyone who brought cash offering to her church, and thousands fell victim to it.
Indeed.
And she couldn't do it, and that's why they took her to court.
Indeed. This was as far back as October 2022. So here's what happened. She put it on social media. It was advertised on her Today TV that you mentioned. And then she first started by saying that she was going to distribute 300,000 CDs for every person who came to church that evening.
I see.
So you can imagine, free money.
True.
A lot of people flocked to the court and then to the church. And then when they got there, she then told them that they should form groups of 20 and 19. And in those groups, each person or each individual, they are supposed to raise 1,000 CDs or more. And then when you bring that amount, then she'll double it for you. So you can imagine how many people came with those amounts of money. And that was the reason why the prosecution said that more people had been defrauded, but they had only 6 people coming forward. But if you actually look at the charge sheet, there were 5 individuals who came, and that's why it counts. But in the end, they dropped count 4 and 5 because there was no evidence to back it up, and that's why the courts went with the first 3 counts, which is the 1, 2, and 3.
And it says she has a daughter, 24-year-old, who is studying law. She's
studying law at the university.
I see.
And then the 3-year-old.
Well, she had few words after her conviction, and let's take a listen to her. This is exactly what she said.
What would you have for your master report? And then I'll catch you up.
I'm a catch you for
All right, so if you go on our Facebook page, we're showing you that video when there's Patricia Esiodua Siama, popularly known as Nana Agrada, was whisked into this waiting police pickup vehicle right at the premises of the court earlier today. And so the contention by some lawyers that 15 years for a first-time offender is harsh. You say it wasn't maybe well informed because per the court proceedings today, she's not a first-time offender, essentially.
Agrada, per the records before the court, isn't a first-time offender. Now, indeed, the prosecution had indicated that in 2021 she was convicted of similar charges, and that was where she was fined 10,000 cedis. And so, if you observed, Alfred, when the prosecutor was raising that issue as one of the reasons why she should be granted a custodial sentence, one of the lawyers of Agrada sought to object it because, according to him, they had already dealt with that and this was an entirely different matter. So they didn't want to bring that into today's, obviously knowing that once that is done, it will affect Agrada's case in the long run, which I believe...
Like she's going to get more years.
Indeed, which I believe it did, because for the charlatanic advertisement alone, the penalty unit is what she was given, 25. But the defrauding by false pretense, the range is from 5 to 25 years. And then, because there are 2 counts, the judge, per her discretion, gave her 15 years each, because there are 2 counts of the defrauding by false pretense.
I see.
Yeah.
So really, I mean, in the real look of things, it could have been more years.
It really could have been more years.
So the judge, in applying her discretion, was in some sense lenient to an extent. Well, her imam is private legal practitioner. He's been following this case quite closely as well. Counsel, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, and thanks for having me.
It appears that the position that was earlier espoused by some lawyers that 15 years for a first-time offender is too harsh, according to the details that our legal affairs correspondent Lord Edwasar is giving to us, is misplaced, because the court had indeed held that she is not a first-time offender, and that's why they had to slap her with this much. I want to find out from you how all of this strikes you today and how things played out in court.
Yes, I mean, indeed, if the records prove that it was a first-time offender, the mitigation would have sustained for her. But as the accused lawyer sought to, or the defense lawyer sought to put in the mitigation, the opposition by the prosecution indicated that this is not the first time, so she's not a first-time offender like your reporter mentioned, and that she had been acquitted and discharged, and she was fined 10,000 Ghana cedis at the time. And so the court can basically just not take what the lawyer is saying hook and line. And if you look at the charlatanic practices, it deals with the publication of advertisements or notice to the public, which relates to fortune telling, palmistry, astrology, or use of any kind of subtle means or device to deceive members of the public, so to make unjust enrichment from them. So it deals with everything of intention to defraud. That's why it is linked up to defrauding by false pretense, which is the definitions are listed in section 131, 132, and 133. And with this, the prosecution had to do was to establish that there was a false pretense or personation, basically communicating a false belief to members of the public, as it were the church members or people who watched her on TV. And also the mens rea, that's the intention to defraud, that they also had to prove that indeed she intentioned herself to deceive and obtain such unjust enrichment to herself, and that there was transfer of ownership. That is, the false pretense must be induced on the members or those who had the opportunity of that notice, and as a result of that, it induced the transfer of ownership of property to her, and that is what was discharged. It serves as a deterrent to some section of the clergy who sometimes use faith to exploit the masses. It is time and rife that the law works. Indeed, we have laws that govern all of these things. You cannot just use faith to procure unjust riches and believe that you surround yourself with macho men and service personnel who would protect you. When the law comes for you, it will pick you out of all of those people, and your freedom to associate, your freedom to worship would all be curtailed. So it is a lesson. It is a lesson to Christendom and other faiths in Ghana that you cannot use religion to exploit the masses. Your time will be up. Practice genuine faith, and that would commute members of the public to whichever divinity they believe in, but not to engage in any other actions or inactions that would suggest defrauding the very members you are propagating their faith to God by false pretense or any form of charlatanic practice. There are a lot of them on social media and running media platforms that have not been sanctioned by the GIBA or licensing authorities. There are a lot of them, and would encourage the cyber fraud unit of the Ghana Police Service to be more forefront in this war, to fish out such cadres of faith that seek to demean the very faith that they uphold. There are a lot of them. Well, if the defense lawyers also believe that the sentencing is harsh, they are at liberty to file a notice of appeal, and then they further seek bail pending appeal, and we see how the litigation would go on. But it is just unfortunate that Miss Agrada just finds herself in this debacle, which obviously could have been avoided.
Right, so thank you. Appreciate you for this extensive, detailed analysis. Appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining us. Christian Mamhese is private legal practitioner. She's live here on Hot Edition. We're also on Kesmi 107.1 and on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. Away from that, as getting to Parliament, because the minority in Parliament has accused the Electoral Commission of bowing to political pressure in its decision to rerun elections in the Blakuma North constituency. On Wednesday, the Electoral Commission announced that it would conduct a rerun in 19 polling stations to resolve the dispute stemming from the December 7, 2024 polls. The Commission explained that the rerun scheduled for July 11 was necessary because the original pink sheets were destroyed during a chaotic collation process and presiding officers failed to verify the scanned copies. However, the minority leader rejected the decision, accusing the Electoral Commission leadership of acting to protect their jobs. Here's Alexander Apanyomaking earlier today in Parliament.
According to the minority, the integrity of the Electoral Commission is coming under serious question following the Commission's own departure from an earlier decision it took to not rerun elections in the Blakuma North constituency.
Mr. Speaker, today we have a member in this chamber from Domi Kwabenya because when it was left with some few polling stations, EC relied on tally cards. Aden, Michael Kwe Jr. on the Onyenipa, Onya Gandini. Michael Kwe Jr. protested, but he did not protest with violence. He did not carry his constituent to the EC Collation Center. He expressed his disagreement in a civil way. Today, we have our colleague Akurugu in with us because EC used tally cards to complete the collation process. And when it is clear that the EC was on course to complete this process, we are being told today that there's going to be rerun of some constituencies. It is unfair, it is unjust. Is it the case, and I don't want to believe that that is the case, that the recent public comment by some senior politicians is what is compelling EC perhaps to secure their job? They want to succumb to the whims and caprices of certain extremists or certain hardliners. It is not fair. Maybe today this thing it is helping some other people. Tomorrow it may be their turn.
As Alexander Apanyomaking, the minority leader, they're also demanding that the Electoral Commission chairperson and her team appear before Parliament to brief MPs on the matter again. That's what he said earlier today.
I would humbly plead with my colleague opposite me to program the EC. We just received Prime Minister Modi talking about our strides in democracy. Let us not wish them away. In the sub-region, many countries wish they were Ghana. They are not Ghana because they took the institutions for granted, and today they are paying dearly for it. Let's not say to ourselves, had I known. EC must come here and brief us why, in spite of their being unequivocal, they have now changed course. We must not allow this. So, Mr. Speaker, I expect that on issue 1, next week, the EC will be programmed to come and brief the House. We see some people are with all smiles. They are not questioning the 19 because it suits them. We see them, smiles all over, broad smiles on their faces.
As Alexander Abenyo marking there. Well, but in contrast, Mama Yaraga, the majority leader, really found no issue with the Electoral Commission's decision on this matter, the decision to rerun the elections in the 19 polling stations.
The Electoral Commission is saying that their own presiding officers did not verify the 19 polling stations. And because their presiding officers did not verify the 19 polling stations, they don't think that those polling station results should be used. And that is why they are deciding to rerun those 19 polling stations. You made reference to the presentations made by the EC in this House. If you recall, after the EC's presentation, I drew the attention to the fact that the matter in contention was the issue of verification of the pink sheets, the scanned ones, and that their own presiding officers did not verify the pink sheets. And that day he was called on this House to help them to have security to collect the results. And I said that for this House to help you, this House has to verify that what you are telling us is true. And I know because everything happened on television and the presiding officers did not verify those pink sheets. So if you want us to help you, we will conduct an inquiry in this House. And if we establish that your own presiding officers verify those pink sheets, then we will direct the police to come and provide you with the protection you need to collect the results. This is what has made them to go back, think over it, and now decide that they have to come clean on the fact that their own presiding officers did not verify the scanned pink sheets. And if the scanned pink sheets were not verified by their own presiding officers, on what basis should that be used? That is why they are calling for a rerun of those 19 polling stations. I don't know why you are afraid. Why are you afraid? Why are you afraid? Why are you afraid? So please let us not try to politicize this and say that because recently the national chairman of one political party made a statement, the EC is intimidated. No, it's just fair and reasonable that if their own officer did not verify those pink sheets, that they should rerun those polling stations.
Majority Leader Mahama Yariga speaking there. Meanwhile, the New Patriotic Party says the EC has no power to conduct a rerun. In Ablekuma North, addressing a news conference, General Secretary Justin Korea Frimpong said the party will challenge the decision. Take a listen.
Only a court of competent jurisdiction that can order a rerun of election court, except by the court. In any case, we have evidence that some of these presiding officers were in fact at the collation center and where they verified the results from their polling stations. We are a nation of rule of law. We owe it to our dear country Ghana and prosperity to rise above our parochial or partisan considerations in order to defend our democratic gains. We in the MPP shall stop at nothing in our quest to ensure that the powers that must be respected and upheld by the democratic right and sovereignty of the good people of Ablekuma North, as expressed by them on 7th of December 2024, is upheld. And therefore, we have caused our legal directorate to challenge the Electoral Commission in court. And today we shall file in court to challenge the arbitrary, the victimization of our judges. We will get a good judge who will be firm and speak for the truth. When the truth speaks, certainly we will be vindicated, and our candidate will be declared the winner of Ablekumanok.
That's Justin Kodia there. Earlier, yesterday, I spoke to the Deputy Director of IT and Elections for the NDC, Rashid Tanko Computer, on Ghana Tonight. And he also, contrary to what the MPP was put out today, holds the view that the Electoral Commission had a meeting with the political parties that led to this decision, as has been communicated. Take a listen.
To your cherished viewers and listeners as well. This is good news for democracy. I mean, democracy is one thing that we have chosen for ourselves in Ghana, that we should be governed by rule of law and not somebody's whims and caprices. And so I am so happy with the outcome of the decision by the Electoral Commission to rerun 19 polling stations. Alfred, let me run you through some issue that came out about 2 weeks ago. We had a meeting with the Electoral Commission. I was part of the meeting with my colleague Mahdi and our council Edwiji. The MPP was led by their Director of Election, Evans, and a former MP. In that meeting, it came out that the 62 that we were following them up, that they should have a rerun for the 62 polling stations. 25 of them were not scanned copies. They were carbon copies being presented by the MPP then. So we were magnanimous at the meeting. We agreed that fine, since they were carbon copies and not scanned copies, we will accept them as being true reflection of the elections. So the 25 carbon copies results were added. So that reduced the margin to 37. Now the rest of the 37 were scanned copies. And then that was how we ended the 37. And that's why the MPP is not telling the general public. The NDC were magnanimous at that meeting and said, look, we want resolution to this Ablekumanok matter. And therefore, these 25, which were carbon copies, we will accept them. And we accepted them. And they added, so that's why it reduced to 37. Now, with these 37, which were scanned copies, we told them that, look, let's go for a rerun for the 37 because they are scanned copies. We cannot accept it. Then the MPP, they were still insisting that they wanted the 37 to be taken out and leave with only 3 so that the 3, they can be used to declare them as winners. That's what they were trying to do. And we said, how can we rely on your scanned copies?
I see.
Who accept that? And then so the Electoral Commission with the 2 parties involved, that is the NDC and MPP, we all agreed that, look, this is the position we have presented to you. Go into conclave.
Right.
You are the commissioners. Take a decision on it and report back to us. Then we'll look at it critically. Then before that, we realized that Dr. Bosman Asari was in Parliament reporting and talking about the issue when they hadn't gotten back to us. So we knew that whatever Dr. Bosman Asari was telling Parliament was not the true reflection of what transpired at the IPAC meeting that we held.
I see.
And he sat through it.
If you say it wasn't a true reflection, he had indicated, in fact, he was asked a direct question as to whether a rerun of the elections in these contested polling stations is one that is going to be considered or is an option for the Electoral Commission at all. And he ruled that out 2 weeks ago, that the rerun was not an option. And 2 weeks on, we're hearing this position by the Electoral Commission. What could have changed? What could have changed?
That is, Alfred, that is where we as a political party, the NDC, we are surprised at the 10th of event when he went to Parliament and made such statement. Because that was not a true reflection of what happened at the IPAC meeting. In fact, we're all there. In fact, Madame Jean Mensa herself presided over the meeting. And where we accepted the 25 to be taken away from the 62 and reduce it to 37. And we said they should go and look at the 37 at conclave and report back to us. So we're going to have another meeting with them. Fortunately, the second meeting was held yesterday, and my colleague represented us. So when the meeting was held, it came out that out of the 37 that were still contesting, 18 of them, their presiding officers came and authenticated the 18 scanned copies and said, yes, it was true reflection. They actually had the results at their polling stations. And
that's Rashid Tanko Computer, is the Deputy Director of IT and Elections for the NDC there. Now, let's get a bit further into this particular issue. And Dr. Samuel Efree is a political analyst and a lecturer. He's been following the evolution of events in the Ablekuma North constituency. Bear in mind, this constituency is still not represented in Parliament. That's the only constituency without representation in this 9th Parliament. Doc, appreciate you. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, Alfred. Good evening.
Now, this is the decision by Electoral Commission. 19 polling stations would have to rerun their elections on the 11th of July. The NPP says they do not agree. They're going to test the law on this matter. They think that the EC is bound to political pressure. NDC says, well, there were a series of meetings, and it is the result of this meeting the Electoral Commission has communicated. How do you see things playing out in the end?
Yeah, Alfred, it's quite unfortunate how events has turned to be in this situation that we find ourselves. We all know that the Ablekuma elections is in limbo because of some kind of what we call it, the pink sheet of about some few polling stations. But I think is the EC that is trying to make the issues more cancerous, meaning that trying to make to make out the situation. Because I even just, as I was listening to you, you said about even 2 weeks ago, Bosman was in Parliament saying that there was no need for rerun of these polling stations, but just some few days or weeks, then you come back and say that there will be a rerun. You see, when you do this, then you allow us to read meanings to your actions and inactions. And this is quite unfortunate for EC. And EC should be very cautious in some of these kind of events as they move along with some of these elections situations. Because when you do that, you just give room for wrong interpretation of certain actions. And that is what we need to prevent. Because what is happening now, whatever being the case, you have allowed these parties to interpret it in a more different perspective. And when it happens, then it makes the credibility of your results or the outcome to be so murky. And that is what needs to be avoided in this development in terms of elections. And that is what EC need to avoid. Because, Alfred, when you look at what is happening, we are not saying that there should be, because even previous kind of in previous constituencies, about 2024 election, you can even realize that there were some of these issues there. But as time evolves, then try to handle some of these issues. But I don't know why Ablekuma North has become so difficult, and it has become so difficult because of because when you look at the trend, it's only 1992 that the NDC had the seat, and all these while various elections, the MPP and the 2024 the gap closed, and that is why the NDC think of clinking trying to take the seat, and that is where the issue comes in terms of how competitive the seat has become. And we know that it's quite unfortunate that the EC had no any other mechanism, no any other option that was available for the EC not to have any copy of their own to authenticate what the parties are holding. And that is quite unfortunate, because EC, you are the one that organized it. If there's any kind of issue that goes along, you are the one to determine. You want to just give that credibility of the results. But this is where we find ourselves, that the EC cannot prove itself in this kind of situation, and it's quite unfortunate.
I see, but this is
that the EC needs to sit up.
And this is a constituency the MPP has won since it was created, and so you have some others who also make the point that, I mean, if they have that history, it would also play out to their advantage. So I mean, why don't you then go ahead with this election as has been communicated by the Electoral Commission? What do you make of the concerns that the MPP has raised on all of this?
You know, the MPP will not let it go, Alfred, just like that, because, I don't think that you may have a control over something for a while, and all of a sudden you just want to let it slip by. That is what the MPP is holding on tight, because they believe that is their stronghold. They believe that is their seat, and they will not let things go. So you have to understand where the MPP is coming from. And until there's a proven evidence that they have won, they will not let it go. So they will try to go use any other means, as even I said earlier in one of your stations, that they will try to enchant the process to ensure that they get hold of that seat. So from their perspective, I think nobody can begrudge them for the actions that they are taking. And I think everyone could have taken that position. I
do appreciate you for this. Thank you so much, Doc, for your time.
My pleasure.
Dr. Samuel Efreye is a political analyst and lecturer as well. And my colleague, Gord Armstrong Alogbe, is in the constituency and is joining us on the telephone as well. Armstrong, what have they been telling you?
So, Alfred, the message of the NDP national office seems to have gone down well within the constituency, because the electorate here, that is those who are affiliated to the MPP, initially took to the street to campaign until later this afternoon, when the information came that they are going to challenge this decision by the EC. So these guys have to back down from their campaign. And at a point in time, they wouldn't even want to talk to the media again, because initially they wanted the media also to help them disseminate the information to the other constituents who are the various 19 police stations. They will not talk to us again. So that is exactly what is happening. But for the NDC, they are still moving from door to door campaigning to ensure that they snatch this seat from the NPP once and for all, knowing that this is not their stronghold and that anything can happen on the 11th of July. Alfred.
I appreciate you for this. Thank you so much. I'm Sean Gold Alogbe there in the Ablekuma North constituency. Let's go to the presidency now.
President John Dramani Mahama has sworn in 7 justices of the Supreme Court, and they are as follows: Justice Senyo Jamefe, Justice Sir Dennis Dominic Ajay, Justice B.L. Simon Sebare, Justice Philip Bright Mensah. We have Justice Janapari Ajwa Batels Kojo, Justice Hafisata Amali Boba, and Justice Kwekuteria Aka Boafo. President Mahama, speaking at the swearing in at the presidency, said the judiciary must restore trust and hope and ensure justice delivery.
All of you come onto the Supreme Court with vast experience and a solid knowledge of the law and are deserving of this high office. The Supreme Court of Ghana stands as the final custodian of our laws, the guardian of our democracy and the protector of the rights and liberties of all our citizens. It is to this court that people turn when their freedoms are threatened, when justice seems distant, or when the complexities of modern governance tests the Constitution. As justices of this noble institution, you are called not merely to interpret the law, but to embody its highest ideals, which are fairness, impartiality, integrity, and courage. You are expected to serve not as arbiters of technicalities, but as stewards of justice and conscience. Yours is not only a legal role, but a moral responsibility to safeguard our Constitution's spirit and interpret it in ways that advance the common good and protect the most vulnerable in our society. Fellow citizens, we live in an era of profound national reflection. Ghanaians are looking not only to the executive for leadership, but also to the judiciary for assurance that the laws of this land still work for all of us, that there is fairness and equality before the law, and that justice is not denied by undue delay. In recent years, our judiciary, like many of our democratic institutions, have come under public scrutiny. The erosion of public trust in our state institutions reflects a crisis of confidence that must be addressed with truth and urgency. However, this moment also presents us with an opportunity, a chance to begin again, to reaffirm the judiciary's independence, to rebuild its reputation, and to restore the people's faith in the rule of law. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the essence of the Ghana Reset Agenda, a national renewal grounded in justice, equity, transparency, and institutional reform. A reformed and revitalized Ghana must rest on the firm foundation of a credible, independent, and efficient justice system. In our Ghana We Want vision, the judiciary is not a passive bystander in nation building. It is an active guarantor of rights, an enabler of development, and a check on the excesses of power. The judiciary must not only speak the language of the law, it must understand the heartbeat of the nation. It must be alert to the needs of low-income individuals, mindful of the struggles faced by our women and children, and sensitive to the anxieties of our citizens who feel excluded, unheard, or unseen. In our reset republic, access to justice must not depend on status or wealth. It must not be the privilege of a few.
President Mahama there. Speaking on behalf of the other judges, Justice Senyor Jamefe said they would dispense justice without fear or favor. According to him, having waited for a long time to be called to the apex courts, the day has finally arrived.
And now my colleagues, Supreme Court judges, and other Superior Court judges present. Chairman of the Council of State, Honorable Do Ajaho, members of the Judicial Council, Bar Association, Honorable Ministers of State, and senior government officials herein present, families and friends, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to represent my colleagues for our response. Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana, John Dramani Mahama, on behalf of my colleagues, we thank you very much appointing us as justices of the Supreme Court as per Article 144+2 of the Constitution of Ghana. And secondly, swearing us in this afternoon as justices of the Supreme Court. And more so, your advice given us. Thank you very much. We also thank the Judicial Council, honorable members of the Judicial Council, members of the Council of State, and honorable members of the Parliament of Ghana for the various roles you played in this exercise. Thank you very much. To the people of Ghana, we promise that we will dispense justice to all manner of people without fear or favor, ill will or affection. We also promise you equal justice under law. We pray the Almighty God to give us the strength, the wisdom, and the courage to fulfill this promise. Now to the acting Chief Justice, His Lordship Justice Bafo Boni, and the other Superior Court judges herein present. We thank you so much for your counseling and guidance through this period of our nomination up to the swearing in today.
That was Justice Senyor Jamefe speaking there. The Tertiary Education Workers Union of Ghana, TEWU Ghana, has begun an indefinite strike today after its 7-day ultimatum to authorities expired on June 24. The strike follows a controversial recognition of the minority union, TEWU TUC, as the official workers' representative on the governing councils of public universities, a move TEWU Ghana calls egregious and unjustifiable. The union argues that this decision ignores its majority membership and undermines democratic principles. In a strongly worded statement, Tewu Ghana condemned the authorities for failing to provide a satisfactory explanation or resolution forcing the union to take drastic action to uphold fairness in tertiary education governance. And these are their key three demands. They are demanding immediate withdrawal of TUC's appointment as workers' representative. They are also demanding urgent verification by the Chief Labour Officer under the Ministers of Labour and Education to determine the true majority union per Labour Regulations 2007 LI 1833. And finally, they are also demanding a transparent and democratic process to ensure future union representation reflects majority voices. Tewu Ghana insists these steps will resolve the dispute fairly and restore accountability in university governance. Well, you're still live here on Hot Edition. We'll be back after this break with the business news.
They're the best. Turn it up. 92.7.
Alfred.
Mark your calendars. It's the 3FM Baby Fair happening live on the 11th to the 13th of July at Marina Mall Airport City in Accra from 10 a.m. and it's absolutely free. From baby essentials and kids wear to toys, skincare, educational material, and so much more. Shop amazing deals on a wide range of childcare products all under one roof. Don't miss our sessions with the Ghana Pediatric Society and all the amazing mums with the Mum Circle, a safe space for young mothers to share tips and connect. And there will be fun activities for the kids with our Kids Corner, games for the family, good food, and great vibes all around. To be a vendor, please call 0531 100 927 or 0532 200 927. It's the 3FM Baby Fair, your one-stop event for all your childcare needs.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the business segment on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7 with me, Bismarck. Also coming up tonight, inflation projected to drop to single digits by September as financial analysts cite city stability, tight monetary policy, and high treasury bill yields. This story and others lined up for you. Please stay. Thanks for your company. Now to the very first story. The rate of inflation could return to single digits by September 2025, beating the government's own target of mid-2026. That is the projection by Head of Finance at Melbourne Capital, Nelson Kujo Kwagbaji. It follows the latest figures from the Ghana Statistical Service, showing that year-on-year inflation dropped sharply to 13.7% in June, the lowest since December 2021, and also nearing the end-year target of 11.9%. Nelson Kujo Kwagbaji attributes the downward trend to a combination of factors, including sustained city stability, a tight monetary policy stance by the Bank of Ghana, and yields on the treasury bill market, which continue to absorb excess liquidity from the system.
Considering the fact that we are coming from 23.8 in December 2024, even government-owned projection for end of year is at 11.9%. And so clearly, having an inflation of 13.7% as at the end of 30th June 2025 is very significant. What it technically means is that gradually, government may end up achieving their end-of-year inflation target even before the end of the year. The end-of-year target is 11.9%. Currently, we are at 13.7%. And so by the end of third quarter, which is September 2025, we may be hitting a single-digit inflation, and that will be good news for the economy. So by the end of the third quarter, we expect inflation to hover around 9 to 10%. And that will be very good for the health of the economy and also a good signal for both investors, local and foreign, who may want to come and invest within the Ghanaian economy.
And that was financial analyst and head of finance at Melbourne Capital, Nelson Kujo-Kwagbeji. Now, Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Tourism Authority, Mami Efua Huajeto, has reiterated Ghana's bold and inclusive vision for tourism, highlighting plans to make tourism a central pillar of national development. According to her, the future of tourism in Ghana is people-centered and must support local enterprise, elevate communities, and promote tourism. She also called for harmonized visa regimes across West Africa, improved infrastructure, and stronger public-private partnerships to fully unlock the potential of regional tourism. She was speaking at the 8th edition of the Accra Ways of Travel and Tourism Expo held in Accra.
The sector ensuring that growth today does not compromise the prospects of tomorrow. Tourism, at its core, is about storytelling. And for too long, Africa's story has been told from the outside, looking inside. In short, it has not been told by our own. At the Ghana Tourism Authority, we are shifting these dynamics. We are learning to tell our own stories, stories that celebrate our resilience, showcase our creativity, and connect us with our diaspora. Initiatives such as the Year of Return, Beyond the Return, Panafest, and of course, the Black Star Experience are just the beginning. We believe that by owning our narrative.
And that was Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Tourism Authority, Mami Efua Huajeto, entering the business news on Hot Edition with me, Bismarck Awusa. For more business stories, please check out our website, 3news.com. Thanks for your company.
Mark your calendars. It's the 3FM Baby Fair happening live on the 11th to the 13th of July at Marina Mall Airport City in Accra from 10 a.m. and it's absolutely free. From baby essentials and kids wear to toys, skincare, education material, and so much more. Shop amazing deals on a wide range of childcare products all under one roof. Don't miss our sessions with the Ghana Pediatric Society and all the amazing mums with the Mum Circle, a safe space for young mothers to share tips and connect. And there will be fun activities for the kids with our Kids Corner, games for the family, good food, and great vibes all around. To be a vendor, please call 0531 100 927 or 0532 200 927. It's the 3FM Baby Fair, your one-stop event for all your childcare needs. Proudly sponsored by You Fresh Drinks and Fidelity Bank.
Well, thank you for staying with us here on Hot Edition. I've been doing this with Alfred Ocansey. My name is Christabel Success Trevor. 3FM Drive team with Trigmatic is standing by.